Our next person to be inducted tonight is a man who has distinguished himself in both college and professional sports. Terry Hanson is an East St. Louis native and graduate of Assumption High School. He has served in many capacities over the years, starting out as a college soccer and baseball coach for Benedictine College in Kansas, and transitioning to an executive with 3 teams in the former North American Soccer League. Then on to managing sports properties as a vice president for Turner Broadcasting in Atlanta. Terry recently shared a little anecdote on a podcast about an encounter with broadcasting mogul Ted Turner soon after going to work for Mr. Turner in the late 70s. Let's see if we can hear that.
Turner gave us when I came to town, he introduced me as the general manager as well as the color analyst on the games. He said I was like buying a suit with 2 pair of pants. And about a week later, I was in the Stadium Club having lunch with a member of the Braves front office who was in charge of all the radio broadcasts. And Turner walked through and he said to the guy, I was sitting there, didn't even acknowledge me. He said to the guy, so how are things going with the Braves in the radio? And the guy told him, he said, and the Hawks. And he says, well, they got this and that going on, and they got this sold and that. And he said, and the Cougars? And the guy said, who? He said, the Cougars. And the guy said, you mean the Chiefs? And he said, oh, yeah, whatever. And then he stuck his hand out to me and he said, hi, I'm Ted Turner. I mean, he had forgotten me in a week, and he called the team the Cougars. So Ted had a great vision for the team and having it on television, but he wasn't a guy for great detail at the time.
How about that? Let's welcome to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame, Mr. Terry Hanson. And our executive director, Tim Moore, is handling Mr. Hanson's interview.
I've known Terry for a long time. We're both graduates of Assumption High School and St. Benedict's College. It's been about 50 years or so since we saw each other.
Now Benedictine College.
Now Benedictine College,
Yeah.
That's correct. But you've had a great career, and one of the things I noticed when I was looking at your resume is you've lived in quite a few different places.
Yeah. Atchison, Kansas. Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Rochester, New York. Washington, D.C. Atlanta, Georgia. Ponte Vedra, Florida. Charlotte, North Carolina. And my wife, Patty, who's here this evening, she could have stopped any one of those. I mean, can you imagine following me around the country with the children, me going off, her taking care of the kids, and I mean, I have her to thank for everything I was able to accomplish. So thank you so much, dear.
Thank you, Patty.
52 years.
52 years.
And my daughter, Elizabeth, and my daughter, Amy, and my granddaughter, Lila, are here. Tom Schellbauer, Elizabeth's husband. My brother, Bob, is here, and his wife, Cindy. And I'm real happy to have everybody at this table, so thank you for coming.
Okay. So speaking of St. Benedict's College, St. Benedict's really got your career jump-started.
I tell you what, man, if that wouldn't have happened, I have no idea what I'd end up doing. They came when I was at Cape Girardeau, getting my master's in coaching baseball. They invited me to come back and coach baseball there and kind of refurbish the program. We weren't playing that many games at the time. And I taught in the physical education department and coached baseball. So it was great.
Okay, you catch a big break when one of your Benedictine soccer players gets drafted by the Rochester Lancers of the North American Soccer League.
Well, I had never played soccer. And the president of the college, Father Gerard, called me in and said, would you like to coach soccer? And I said no. And he called me a week later back and he said, we've decided that the baseball coach at this college is going to coach soccer. And I said, well, I'm your man. I can do that. So did that for a few years and had some success, and it led the job into the pros in Rochester, New York, yes.
Yeah, you were the NAIA soccer coach of the year one time, right?
Yeah, I was pretty lucky, actually.
Yeah.
Had good assistant coaches.
I understand that you wore almost every hat you could wear when you were in Rochester.
Yeah, I did. I was PR director, marketing, did the college draft because I knew the guys from the colleges we'd played against, and yeah, it was a pretty fun year.
Okay, so after a year in Rochester, You move on to the Washington Diplomats for the 77 season as a public relation director. And why did you leave Rochester?
Well, they quit paying me, number one. So that was a good idea to make a move. And the owners of Washington were going to bring the San Diego Padres to D.C. And I was all about baseball. But at the last moment, Ray Kroc of McDonald's fame ended up keeping him in San Diego. So I went there to maybe get a connection with baseball and didn't end up having it happen. So I worked there for 2 years, PR director, assistant GM.
So like you said, you worked there 2 years, and then you catch the eye of a guy named Ted Turner.
Yeah, I was doing color analysis on the TV games with John Miller, who you may know from Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. And Ted Turner was in a hotel room in Washington, D.C., and he had bought a team. And he had seen us on television and had a guy call me the next day and say, "We'd like you to come down to Atlanta to work on our television telecast." And I said, "Well, that's great, but what will my job be?" And he said, "Well, that's a job." And I said, "Well, that's really not much of a job." And he said, "Well, what do you do?" And I said, "I'm the assistant GM of this team." And he said, "Well, just come on down and we'll just make you the GM of this team." So I went there as a general manager and did the color analysis for the team.
So after 2 years with the Chiefs folded. I'm
Yeah.
seeing a pattern here.
Well, I read in the paper one day that Ted Turner says, "I got one foot on a banana peel and the other one on the expressway." So I knew that we were not going to be there very long. It was a 2-year franchise, and a lot of teams were folding in the North American Soccer League at the time, and we were certainly one of them.
Okay, but then Ted Turner makes you an offer to be a VP with the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I saw him in the Stadium Club having lunch, and he said to me, "What are you going to do after the soccer here?" And I lied to him. I said, "Well, listen, I'm just going to finish up closing this team up. That's all I'm really concerned about. And after that, I'll worry about me." And of course, I was worried about me already. And he said, "Why don't you come see me this afternoon?" And I did. And he goes, "So what do you want to do? I mean, you're a soccer guy." I said, "Really, I'm a baseball guy." "You are?" I said, "Yeah." And I told him what I did. And he said, "Well, what does make you a VP of the Braves?" And I said, "A VP doing what?" He goes, "I don't know. We'll just figure that later on." And then I went home that night, and the guy I reported to had been the president of CBS Network. I said, "I'm going to be a VP with the Braves." And he says, "No, you're not." I go, "What?" He goes, No, you're not going to do that." And I go, "Well, yeah." He said, "Meet me for breakfast." And then he said, "I have other plans for you. I'd like to have you be the president of Turner Sports." And I said, I've never really done that before, because I hadn't done soccer before either. So I was the president of TBS Sports, and we did college football, first ever cable on college football, the NBA. It was a fun time, and Ted was a little unhinged, but it was a good time.
Yeah. So you stay with TBS Sports until they want you to go to Russia for the Goodwill Games.
Yeah, Ted had an idea of having the Russian Olympics, and I was supposed to go to Russia, and I wasn't relishing going to Russia. And it turns out that my successor, incidentally, went 14 times to Russia in 18 months. So the PGA Tour came calling to me and asked me at the time, and I was still with Turner, if I would entertain, and I never played golf, but if entertaining coming to the PGA Tour and being in charge of their PR department, broadcasting, and a production company. So I moved there for lifestyle reasons too, because we lived in a resort called Sawgrass, within the side of the 17th green of the hole there. That was really kind of cool, and so that was a lot of fun, and I was there like 7 years.
So you're pretty good at things you don't know anything about.
Absolutely. Completely. I have fallen into a whole lot of things, haven't I?
Your final step in your career is with Raycom Sports as the president of Raycom Management Group, heading up the events division.
Well, they came to me when I was at the PGA Tour, loving living in Florida, but they came with a 5-year guaranteed contract, and at that point in my life, I thought, well, that's 5 years, and I probably got to do that. So we moved to Charlotte, and I was in charge of a couple of football bowl games and a couple of basketball tournaments, and did that for about 4 years, and then started my own company.
Okay. Since that time, you moved back to the St. Louis area recently, but in between Raycom Sports and moving back here, what'd you do?
I was a morning radio personality for like 12 years on a show that was nationally syndicated, and that was pretty much of a Southern show, and I was your token Yankee Midwesterner on the show, and they got after me pretty good, but I held my own.
Okay. You probably never knew anything about radio. Either.
Absolutely. Never done that before either. I don't know how I had children.
Okay. Great, Terry. You had a great career, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame.
Thank you.